Welcome to Caren Conversations podcast. Caren, absolutely delighted to welcome you here to our Edgbaston studios. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming over and hopefully talking to about yourself and also about cross-country trains. So let's start with that first, if you can. Just a quick introduction in terms of yourself, your role, and talk to us about cross-country trains as well.
Yeah,
please.
Of course. So my name's Caren Alderwick. I currently am the Head of Apprenticeships and Operational Training at Cross Country. So I lead our learning and development function that sits within the HR Directorate. I've been at Cross Country coming up for 5 years. I joined just before the COVID crisis of 2020. So it was a really interesting time to join the business and very different start to my career with Cross Country. But thankfully kind of moved out of that and now kind of look after the learning and development and the training strategy for the business.
Okay, fantastic. So your role is the Head of Apprenticeships and Operational Training.
That's correct,
So
yes.
there's two sort of different aspects to this.
Yeah, there is. So when I joined Cross Country, I started as an apprenticeship manager. So when I started back in 2020, there wasn't any apprenticeship provision within the business. So initially my role was setting up the apprenticeships, kind of putting the strategy in place, where we wanted to focus, what roles, what areas of the business. And like with most roles, it's grown over the past few years. And then I moved into a kind of bigger role about sort of 12, 18 months ago. And that role now sees me looking after our operational training, which now does also include sort of driver training as well. So it's a really key focus of our business, making sure we've got enough people to drive and manage the trains. So I now have a fairly big team that delivers all of the training for our onboard crews, our drivers, and then all our support staff that go in kind of behind the scenes, making sure that everything runs smoothly. So our managers, our head office function. It's quite a broad role now.
Okay, fantastic. So you've been there for 5 years, or nearly 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's gone through a bit of a transformation as well in terms of obviously starting off with, as you said, no real apprenticeship offer, and to a point where an apprenticeship offer now has been sort of defined and laid out and so forth. So talk to us a little bit about what the current offer is.
Of course.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the organisation and some of the opportunities on a wider level.
Yeah, sure, of course. So when I started, the key focus for us was around our driver grade. So that was the first apprenticeship we introduced at Cross Country. So that was the level 3 train driver apprenticeship. So anyone now that wants to become a train driver within the rail industry kind of more generally, but specifically Cross Country, will join us on the level 3 apprenticeship. It's around sort of 12 to 18 months in duration, and it means we can take somebody from the street in any type of role, and within about a year we then have productive drivers, so the next generation of train drivers. We've then, after we kind of got that one up and off the ground, we then looked at our onboard crew. It's really important for me that we offer all grades, so whatever role you do, you've got that opportunity to get sort of formalised qualifications from it. It's also really important for me and for the business that we support our colleagues if they need any maths and English support, to make sure that all of our colleagues have as many sort of qualifications as possible to enable them to do their roles to the best of their ability. So we now offer apprenticeships to our onboard crew as well, so our train managers and senior conductors. That's been really successful. We've got really great success rates with that. The feedback from our colleagues that complete it have really enjoyed it. They really get a lot out of the extra support they get through the apprenticeship programme. And that's something that we plan to continue offering to everybody in the future that joins us. So we've got a lot of recruitment plans for 2025. We're looking to bring in lots more people into our business. So something we'll continue to offer to all of our onboard crew as well. We then look to support our management colleagues. So again, for people who are maybe in roles currently as managers, they might be new managers or managers who haven't had any formalised training. We think it's really important that we offer them some structured development at the right level. So the great thing with the apprenticeship programme is there's lots of different levels of management qualifications. So whatever role they're in, whichever kind of level within the business, there's an appropriate management qualification for them, so that they've got the tools and the skills they need to support people coming through in their teams as well. And then finally, we don't want to leave out our head office colleagues. So again, if we've got people in sort of specialist functions that want to upskill or to progress, we offer those qualifications as well. So for example, if we take our finance team, we've brought in people on apprenticeships at levels 2 and 3, and then we support them into levels 4. If we take on graduates who already have degrees, we support them to get the next level up. So it's really around making sure that we offer something that's tailored for the individuals and their role that they're currently doing, but also what their future aspirations are as well.
Okay, fantastic, Caren. There seems to be a lot of training and skills development embedded throughout the organisation, in terms of recruiting new people as well as the individuals that you've got in terms of upskilling as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So talk to us, if you can, about numbers, the size of the organisation. And for those that may not know, I mean, obviously Cross Country is a brand that's familiar to many people, but there may be some people that may not be familiar with the name.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about, who Cross Country are as well. If
Yeah,
you can.
sure, of course. Yeah, no problem. So Cross Country is a train operating company, so commonly referred to as a TOC within rail. So we're a passenger TOC, so essentially means we carry people from one place to another. I guess the role of Cross Country is in the job title. So we do cover the whole of the country. So we go all the way from sort of Scotland, Edinburgh, all the way down through England, Manchester, Leeds, Nottingham, right out into kind of East Anglia, Cambridge, and then down to Reading, Bournemouth, Plymouth, Bristol, and then finally sort of into Newport and Cardiff in Wales. Right. So we do cover kind of the length and breadth of England, Scotland, and parts of Wales. Right. Like I say, we carry passengers, so thousands and thousands of passengers every day. We're classed as an intercity operator, so we generally go from one city to another. So we're not a local train company, so we don't stop at kind of different villages and towns within a main city. So we obviously will go from Birmingham, say, up to Derby, or Birmingham out. We wouldn't stop at the individual calling points on the way out of Birmingham like some of the local train companies do. Right. We have around approximately 2,000 people in the business. That obviously changes, month to month as people retire or people join us, but kind of the normal figures around the 2,000 mark. Birmingham is our central hub. So our head office is based in central Birmingham, where our head office and support colleagues are based. And our main depot is Birmingham as well, Birmingham New Street. So all of our trains do run through Birmingham. So it is our central hub, and where we do have the biggest numbers of our frontline colleagues as well, working out of Birmingham New Street. Okay.
I'm just trying to visualize. So this is the grey and the black trains, is it? Or is it which bucket?
So we're going through a bit of a rebrand at the moment. So our trains are grey currently, and like a kind of a pinky kind of colour. Okay. And then the writing on the side is either kind of pink or grey normally. Pink and grey. But
there's a rebrand taking place.
We're being rebranded, yeah. So we've got some new colours. So if you travel on our trains, you might see some of our coffee cups that have got they're kind of cream with blue and like a mustardy colour, and they focus on different areas as well of the country. So we've got some sort of seaside images, some city images, hot air balloons that we have out of Bristol. So the colour palette is being changed, and our trains are being refurbed and updated over the next couple of years with the new colours on. Okay.
So as a train operating company operating in obviously UK and England, is it England or is it wider?
So we operate Scotland, England and Wales.
Scotland, okay. So in in Britain, how competitive is the marketplace for somebody that may not be aware of the train sector as well? The railway sector is gone through quite a lot of change, and people are usually
it does. So obviously there's lots of different train companies. So in terms of long distance trains, you've got the likes of Avanti and LNER. And then obviously you've got your local train operators. So here in Birmingham, we've got West Mids Trains. So we do work can't say that word.
Collaboratively, yeah.
We do work collaboratively, thank you, on different projects and industry, opportunities. But equally, we work over different patches. Sometimes we have the same trains on the same patch. So there is competition, obviously, for ticket prices and things. And, the different companies will offer different deals and different price points for various travel tickets.
Okay. Would you say one of the sort of main differentiators is sort of customer service and the experience for train operators and so forth? Therefore, obviously, the stuff that you've got. The whole experience.
Absolutely. It's really important to us. So we, one of our kind of company mottos is we put customers at the heart of everything we do. So it is around making sure that when our customers get on our trains, they get the service levels that they expect. We do have obviously first class offer. We have standard travel. So it is very much around making sure that the people we recruit have got a very strong sense of customer focus. But obviously safety is the paramount objective that we all, whatever train company you work for, it's always safety is the priority. But it is really important to us that we offer our customers an experience when they're travelling with us, particularly if they join us for long distance travel. So a lot of our customers will get on and, maybe Birmingham to York or wherever, or Birmingham down to the south coast. So they're on our trains for a long time.
For a while,
so absolutely. So it's important that it's a pleasant journey for them.
Okay. So Caren, you spoke a little bit about the depth and breadth of the organisation, and you spoke a little bit about some of the apprenticeships and the training that you have offer. Some of it is for upskilling your existing staff. Some of it is about new recruits.
Yes.
So if we just think about in terms of recruitment as a drive, people talk about there's a shortage of train drivers, there's a shortage of key skills. How are you finding that at the moment in terms of your organisation?
So that's very true. So the rail industry has got an ageing workforce. I think is a fair reflection. So a lot of the people that have worked for us, particularly in the driver grade, joined, maybe 20, 30 years ago, back under the days of sort of British Rail, and have been through various sort of different company name changes. And, they're getting to the point where they're looking to retire. So we do know that we have got people who are ready to retire and who will be leaving the business in the next sort of couple of years. So we are, actively pre-planning for that. Yeah. We are recruiting, we are upskilling, we are promoting people within the business into different roles. But I think it's really important to kind of remember that it's not a quick job to learn to drive a train. It takes approximately a year to have those skills under your belt. So it is really important that we give people the time to develop and to progress within that role. So for us, it's not necessarily about knowing that somebody's going to retire, next month or the month after. We're already looking at who potentially will be retiring in 2025, 26, 27 and onwards, so we can adjust our recruitment pipeline to minimise the risk of experienced drivers leaving, and we have people, sort of succession plan to step up into those roles.
Okay, so you spoke about an aging population. You spoke, you're planning your staffing sort of strategy and your talent pipeline. So in a year, just give us an idea of some of the sort of recruitment that you're doing in terms of volume of numbers.
Yeah, so I think this year we've recruited approximately 300 new colleagues into the business. So that's across all grades. So that's our onboard crew, which covers train managers, senior conductors, our catering colleagues, cleaners, revenue protection. Right. But it then also does include our driver numbers and head office and management staff that help facilitate that. So it's around sort of 300 this year that we've recruited and are in the process of training and upskilling. The numbers will be kind of similar for next year. So yeah, really big recruitment drives. We're kind of actively campaigning out and about in the regions, attending kind of careers fairs and doing outreach work with school programs and things. So really trying to make sure that we reach out into lots of different communities, lots of different areas for people and I guess school leavers who maybe haven't thought about joining the rail industry, and sort of saying to them, that there's fantastic opportunities, lots of different things that you can do. So it's not just, we don't just recruit train drivers. We have dozens of different job roles that are available to everybody. The great thing about the rail industry is there isn't generally a lot of barriers to entry. So we will recruit people, we will train them, we will upskill them, we will support them if they haven't got their maths and English. We think that's really important, that we are open to everybody and that we are kind of an equal opportunities employer.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of some of the opportunities for development, in terms of some opportunities for progression, is there much of that in terms of people?
There's absolutely loads and loads of opportunities. So we will quite often recruit people, I guess, in our entry level posts, and then we support them in those positions for maybe 6 months, 12 months, and then we see them then progress through the different grades. We've had examples of people who've joined us as a cleaner, say maybe part-time around family commitments, and as their circumstances change, they've taken on more hours. Then they've been promoted into potentially a train manager role or a first class host position, and then they work their way up. And we've had examples of people who've then joined or been train managers who then get promoted and progress into driver. So it's very much encouraged and supported in the business to learn and develop and to be looking out for the next opportunity. Equally, we have lots of people who join and they absolutely love the job they're doing, and we're equally delighted to have those people on board as well. So that if you join and, if your ambition is to become a train driver and that's the role you happen to land on your first attempt at trying, then that's brilliant, because we know then we've got some stability in that grade as well. So it's about having that balance of people who want to change roles and want to do different things, but equally those who just, they love whatever job they're doing and that's where they want to stay, and we support them in that role as well. So if, for example, we've got a train manager, they love it, they love the customer focus, they like being out with our passengers. They might not have an interest in being a driver because it's a different type of role. You're on your own quite a lot, so they might decide that they want to stay in the train manager grade. But equally, we're looking for kind of coaches and support, people who can support the new recruits coming in. So there are still different options even within the same grade that people can do if they want to get more involved with assessing or mentoring. So there's lots of different options in all the grades, hopefully to give people kind of maximum enjoyment in their job role.
So Caren, just in terms of numbers, I mean, you've potentially got 2,000 team members, colleagues. How many of those are apprentices, and how many would you say are sort of on some sort of training program?
Yeah, so we've got, obviously the numbers do vary. So we've had, it's probably close to 20% of our workforce who've been through an apprenticeship. Now, obviously a lot of those have completed within the 3 or 4 or 5 years. We've probably got around 9% of our workforce at the moment on an apprenticeship. And that's at all levels, from levels 2 right up to level 7. Right. Generally the numbers are around kind of 8 to 10%, depending on who completes in that particular period. If we've had a new batch of say drivers start, obviously that affects the figures. So yeah, it's generally anywhere between sort of 8 and 10% of our workforce.
Quite a sizable number that is in terms of that. And in terms of your sort of objective going forward, just give us an idea. I mean, obviously you said next year more or less the same in terms of number of new recruits, but in terms of apprenticeships and training, is that trajectory still fairly similar? There's growth plans, or?
Absolutely, yeah. So the idea is never to shrink it. So I'm continually looking for new apprenticeships that we're not currently offering. So every year we bring on board maybe 2 or 3 new apprenticeship standards for people in the business. So for example, this year we've brought in a sustainability practitioner apprenticeship. So a member of the team who's kind of a specialist in that area wanted some kind of further development. So, we look and see what apprenticeship there is that's suitable for that job role. So it's always a question of, actually speaking to the teams, finding out what they need, where the skills gaps are, what can we do to support them? Is there a suitable apprenticeship? If there is, then that's great. We use that. If there isn't an apprenticeship that matches the requirements, then we will obviously then look at different training options. So specialist courses, for example, or whatever it might be that person needs. So yeah, it's never around kind of not growing it.
Okay. So, Karen, in terms of your role, I mean, talk to us a little bit about what does that actually entail, what is involved, and what does a sort of a typical day look like if there is such a
There isn't,
typical,
unfortunately, there isn't a typical day. And that's the great thing around kind of my job particularly. It's very varied. There's always, I mean, the rail industry, I guess, like most industries, is really busy. It's really dynamic. There's lots happening. So it kind of, my week varies. So I spend a lot of time with my team. So we've got 2 training centres up in Derby. So we've got brilliant trainers up there. So making sure that the training is taking place and that the teams who are delivering the training for our new recruits are happy. And so I spend quite a bit of time out and about with the teams. We spend a lot of time looking at the workforce needs for the future years, making sure we haven't got any gaps, working with our fantastic recruitment teams who are kind of out there every day doing all the events, doing the interviews, the assessment centres. It's really a really kind of broad mix of activities every day.
Okay.
So no day is the same.
Yeah, no, that's a blessing in some aspects of it in terms of the variety within the role. So, Karen, in terms of the people that you work with, in terms of your organisation, so give us a little bit of idea of what that structure looks like. So you're head of Apprenticeships and Operational Training. How big are the departments? You mentioned the training centres and so forth. Just give us an idea of.
So of course. So my role sits within the HR directorate. So learning and development comes under HR.
Yeah.
So within the HR team, we've obviously got, so my line manager is the HR director. She's got a senior team of, specialists. So there's myself that looks after L&D, colleague that will look after the HR, somebody else who will looks after sort of organisational development and change. And then the structure under that, I guess, is so for me and my role, I've got like training centre managers, teams of trainers, management development advisor. So we all then have our kind of our specialisms that we look after. So the HR team's probably about 30 people strong.
Okay.
We look after obviously a big organisation. Lots of different people, lots of different needs and requirements. As with any organisation, there's different HR issues. We've got teams that look after employee engagement, teams that look after the industrial relations side of the operation. So it's a complex organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong, is it part of a larger group as well? Is it part of Arriva?
That's correct, yeah. Right? So we, our parent company is Arriva. So Arriva UK, so there's the train component of it, and obviously the bus side as well.
Yeah.
So we sit in UK Trains, which also has Chiltern, Grand Central, and Arriva Rail London, and then obviously cross country. So we are separate entities, but Arriva is the kind of the umbrella over us.
Organisation, yeah, which is a well-known brand and working. Not just in the UK, but globally.
Absolutely, right across Europe as well. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So if it's okay with your good self, Karen, I want to talk a little bit about obviously your journey here. You've been in the role now for nearly five years, and we've discovered the fact that the organisation has gone through a change. We spoke about the apprenticeship numbers, we spoke about the growth, we spoke about the impact as well, and how training now is at the heart of the organisation at different levels. You've got some achievement figures that we spoke about, but can I ask you in terms of how you've got here, what that journey is, so that we've got a lot of aspiring individuals, we've got individuals that are possibly in the early years of development, and then we've got individuals who are potentially thinking about themselves in terms of operational growth and how they can sort of progress in terms of that career ladder. So I want to try and talk a little bit about, from an individual perspective, your personal journey. So you've been in this job 5 years, so talk to us really from backwards if you can, and
Yeah.
just try and give us an idea of how you've got here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess how far back do you want me to go?
Whatever you come to. So let's talk about BMET days, and then we can talk about the NHS, and then we'll talk a little bit about those sort of experiences.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I've got three children as well. 3 sons. Yeah. So I had, I guess, a fair chunk of time out of work. Yeah. Although it wasn't really out of work, because as all working mums know, it's super busy when you've got 3 small children. So I had about 7 years where I wasn't working at all. I was at home with my family. Yeah. When the time came for me to return to work, I'd obviously been out of the workplace for quite a while. Yeah. And you always, I guess, you feel a little bit like the experience you've had prior to it. You get a bit rusty. You've forgotten kind of a bit about the world of work. So I did go back to work initially part-time, sort of did a couple of days a week. My older 2 children were in school. My little one was still in nursery. So kind of juggling the school drop-offs, the nursery runs, and a couple of days a week in work. So that was where I got back into work. So I started at the college on a temporary basis, really. So I started as a kind of an associate lecturer, really. So helping adults get back into work, adult education. I did my teaching qualification in night school at the same time. So I would work a couple of days, then obviously do the underpinning knowledge bit in the evenings. I then picked up an extra day or 2 and I moved into the world of assessing, so going out assessing apprentices. So I did my assessor qual at the same time. So it was pretty much like an apprenticeship, so working and learning at the same time and doing my qualifications. So I did that for a little while, which I really enjoyed. Education's really important to me. It's, I always think it's one of those things where it really makes a difference in people's lives. If people can get some support and get some qualifications under their belt, build their confidence, build their belief in themselves to do things, you really can see sort of people progress and the difference that can make to individuals. So I did that for a little while. Then I moved more into the world of kind of apprenticeships on the other side. So I was working with different clients, helping them recruit apprentices, helping them identify the gaps in their business where they needed some training or what programs would be beneficial for them. So did that for a little while. And then I was in the college for about 5 years altogether. And then I moved to the NHS very briefly. So I transferred there, moved across as a program manager. So I was looking after project managers delivering kind of improvements within hospitals. So whether that was, they were all sorts of different initiatives, all sorts of different projects that we would run with the aim of kind of, I guess, potentially improving the service for patients or finding efficiency. So did that for a few months, and then the opportunity then came up at Cross Country to go back into education. And I would say that having left the education world, it kind of took that for me to realise that actually that was where my passion is, and that's what I enjoy doing. I'm not a project manager. I don't mind managing projects, but I did miss working in education, working in training, sort of helping people take that next step in their career. So when the role came up at Cross Country, it just felt like it was the ideal thing for me. It kind of matched my skill sets, really matched what I love to do. And I haven't looked back since I've been there. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time at Cross Country. I found it a really kind of great place to work. And it does sound a bit of a cliche, but there is a family feel to the rail industry. Yeah. I'm really fortunate in that I've got a really supportive team. I've got a really supportive line manager. And I have to say it has been my favourite role to date. And I think it's really nice that when you're doing a job that you love and that you enjoy, that actually you can see the benefits that come out of it as well. So yeah, I guess that's probably the last maybe 10 years or so
Okay, so in terms of the college experience, obviously there's been a number of roles within the college, so there's been a fair amount of progression. You started off an associate lecturer, as you said, part time potentially.
Yes.
What were you teaching? What were you lecturing in? If you
So we used to do, so a lot of it was adult employability skills.
Okay.
So some of it was around kind of business admin, customer service, employability. So it was helping people who'd potentially been long-term unemployed get back into the workplace. So we'd run various sort of shorter courses for different clients that would have a requirement for
right,
people to get into their business. So it was quite, some of them were sort of shorter courses. So it was varied, really.
would you say some of it was sort of mindset as well, in terms of talking to them about their approach to getting to work, the whole understanding of how important work is as part of their identity?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. And I think a lot of it as well is around sort of having your confidence knocked. And I think having been and I was, I guess, out of work through choice because I had my children, but it affects us all. When you're out of the workplace, you feel, that, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if are these skills I learned, X number of years ago, are they still relevant? And actually, it's just that sometimes kind of building people's confidence back up and actually they realize that, we all have value to add, and it doesn't really matter what role you do. Everybody has something to add in the workplace. And everybody can contribute something, and it's for people, it's sometimes just finding out what that is.
That is,
absolutely. And what value you add, and also recognizing that even if you haven't been working for a few years, that doesn't mean you don't have skills. As a mom at home or a dad at home, you have loads of skills. You're juggling children and managing money and budgets and things, and lots of different kind of competing priorities. So time and organising, they're all the skills that you use in your home life, but you can use those as, they're transferable skills into the workplace. And I think it's sometimes helping people to see that.
Yeah, I can see the impact that you've made there, because it is, you're talking to people sometimes who are, what they call hard to reach, or people who've, far from the job market, people who've had, in some cases, their confidence knocked back, and in other cases, a little bit possibly directionless to a certain level, or just need that little bit of coaching.
Yeah, a bit of guidance. Yeah, definitely.
So there's a lot of different aspects of people and so forth. So would you say that's put you in a good stead in terms of obviously understanding people a little bit better, and obviously life experience, because you must have exposure to a lot of people when you were there?
Yeah, I like to think so, and I think it's very much around sort of treating everybody individually, isn't it? And, the support that people need, and how you can sometimes just point them in the right direction or support them to get on a course that they're interested in. And it definitely does help because, you, especially in the rail industry now, you meet people from all walks of life. A train is the place where, you can meet anybody from millionaires down to, people who are just hopping on and off. Everybody uses the train. So it's a totally, I guess, classless system of travel, isn't it? You can get on and off the train quite freely. They go all over the place, all different areas, all different regions. So you do come into contact with people from all walks of life. And I think, even now we're still trying to do some of that same good work. So working with different organisations. So Cross Country is committed to we work with the King's Trust now, and we have done for the last 4 years. So again, supporting younger people with work experience and job opportunities and things.
Right.
We work with different schools and rail academies to again build not just confidence but entry level skills as well for people. So when they do then apply for roles, they have experience of sitting through a mock assessment centre or sitting in on a mock interview. Breaking down some of the barriers that young people sometimes face with a lack of exposure to different things. So we are trying to support with things like that as well.
Okay. So if we talk a little bit about community and stakeholders and so forth, you mentioned a couple of those stakeholders. It seems like cross-country trains is very much understanding the community that he operates in, the regions that he operates in, and trying to make a difference in each of those
Yeah,
sort of
absolutely.
areas.
So I guess that's kind of outside of my general remit. So we have got specialists in the business. So stakeholder liaison managers who look after our community rail partnerships and look after stakeholders out and about. And they're the people who really do a lot of that really good work with supporting the local community, supporting local initiatives. And again, as a business, we sort of try and support each other. So if there's a particular college or a particular school that wants, I don't know, an assembly or a workshop or something, then we work together to try and facilitate that. But we have got people in our business who are kind of the experts in that area and who do that piece of work on a larger scale.
Okay. Karen, you spoke about education is important to you, and we talk about lifelong learning, and we talk about continuous sort of improvement, continuous journey, and so forth, and learning to a certain level has changed, because it's not just about books and the old style of doing coursework and assignments. We learn from mentors, we learn from people around us, we talk different aspects of it. So talk to us a little bit about your thoughts about how that's changed and what your current view is on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I guess my education was fairly traditional, for want of a better word. So school, GCSEs, A-levels, and then I went to university. So very traditional pathway. My husband was the same, so met at university. He then worked in the university for nearly 20 years. So as a family, we're really invested in education and the next generation. It's really important to us both. And that's obviously what we're now trying to pass on to our children, the importance of education and the importance of being open-minded and learning. It's obviously a bit more difficult with teenage children because they don't think it is important, but me and their dad obviously do. Learning has always been really key. As I mentioned already, when I went back to work, I did, learned again, so upskilled myself again, and I've continued to do that in my current role. So I completed an apprenticeship myself. So I completed my level 5 professional coaching qualification, which again will then hopefully support me to help other people in the business with those coaching and mentoring skills. So absolutely, I think you never stop learning. You shouldn't. You should always want to continue to learn, and it doesn't have to be academically based. It can be learning about anything. If you take up a new skill or a new hobby. My youngest son is teaching himself to play the piano, which I just think is brilliant. He sits and he practices and he listens and he tries again. So he isn't learning in a traditional sense of sitting in a classroom and reading a book about it. He's learning through doing, and he's sort of teaching himself. And it's about different people having different learning styles. So not everybody does benefit from sitting in a classroom. Sometimes you have to. You can't get away from that. You need to have the theory. And, if we think about the work and the learning that goes on in cross country, a big chunk of it for our frontline crew is delivered in the classroom, because you need to have that underpinning knowledge. You need to have the basics around signals and speeds and all those other things. But then once they've done that classroom part, the next big chunk of their learning is out and about on board. So putting what they've learned in the classroom into practice, working with mentors and assessors, getting feedback, that on-the-job kind of experience of learning it hands-on. And then obviously at the end, they will have their assessments where, we have to check that everything they've learned, they have got under their belts and they do know. So it's different ways. But for me, I think you shouldn't ever stop learning. You should always be kind of what's next? What can I improve? That continuous improvement cycle. What can I get better at? What have I made a mistake in that I won't do again? And, we do make mistakes. It's part of learning, isn't it? You learn from your mistakes sometimes as well. So it is, really important to me.
Caren, I want to talk to you a little bit about technology and how we all embrace technology. You're a career professional. You're in the world where we've got to continuously stay relevant, stay on top of things, and so forth. And how have things changed with yourself in terms of from a tech perspective? And what are you seeing are the sort of workforce patterns and just staying top of your game, really.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something I'm still learning at, because I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not a very techie person.
Yeah.
But I do, like I've said, have teenagers to help
Yeah.
me with that.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to workshops, learning around the advances. So AI is obviously huge at the moment.
Yeah.
So how will that change our industry?
Yeah.
So, we've got virtual reality headsets and things that will be
Right.
coming in, scenario setting. Obviously, if you're a trained driver, that's very technical, and
Yeah.
the cabs are high tech. So it's understanding those developments. So for me, it's still I'm learning along with everybody else. So I go to the the Rail Academy at the University of Birmingham. I spent some time there learning around the technological advances, the way they're changing. Even how the trains move over tracks and things, the connections to the lines. There's so much happening. And, when you speak to different individuals in other industries, you see how far ahead some industries are. I was chatting with somebody from sort of automotive.
Yeah.
So driverless cars, they're not far away. And then, obviously people then start thinking, well, will we have driverless trains? Will we have driverless aeroplanes?
Yeah.
Obviously, I think a lot of that is quite far in the future. But it's around just trying to keep yourself educated on things as well, which is, it's quite hard, isn't it, to keep up to date with everything?
Absolutely. What advice would you give to somebody who's sort of starting their journey? You've done employability, you've spoken with people, you've sort of worked at grassroots level. You're talking to all sorts of people on a daily basis. New recruits as well as people who are sort of executive level, establishing their careers. But if we specifically talk about people who are sort of early years in terms of looking to get into work, or have got into work and this is their first role and they're looking for growth, what sort of advice would you?
I think my advice would probably be stay open-minded. Take every chance that you get offered as well. I think particularly in the early days, it's really important not to shut doors on yourself for things. So if you're offered the opportunity to go on a course or to buddy up with somebody, then take it, because you will learn something, even if it is, actually, I don't ever want to do that job. I think that's just because you don't know when you're starting out. You don't know what you want to do, and you don't know where. You can't sometimes see to the end of the week or the end of the month when you're a younger person. So to know what you want to do for the next 5 years or 10 years, it's really difficult. So I would say, probably the same advice I give to my own children: grab hold of everything, go for it, go along, find out. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But at least you're in that. You know what you know rather than what you don't know.
What you don't know.
Try everything.
So stay curious. Stay open.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, stay curious.
Stay open-minded.
Give everything a go. And if there's, you can, I still think you can never have too many qualifications. So if there's an opportunity to go on a course or to upskill in something, then go for it. No, you're never going to look at your CV and go, oh, I wish I didn't do that first aid qualification, or I wish I didn't. You're never going to do that. So everything helps. And you also never know who you're going to meet along the way. And you might, it's a lot of it is around networking, isn't it? And who you can meet and ideas that get introduced to you.
Yeah.
So give everything a try.
Yeah, I'm going to generalize a little bit, but I've come across some people that feel like they're failures already. Even though we see them as successful people and a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential, but they're really hard on themselves. So you've got that group, and then you've got another group that feels they don't need it. Why would I do that? I've got this, and sort of negative on certain things.
Yeah.
Any sort of thoughts and any sort of things that for those.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a little bit down to sort of personality types, isn't it? And I would say sometimes that old pride comes before a fall, so watch out. And again, from college days, we always there's no such thing as a fail. It's your first attempt at learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
First attempt in learning. Yeah. So, you fail if you don't try again. We all make mistakes and we all mess up sometimes, but actually it's around, well, actually I've made a mistake or I failed at whatever it is. How do I not do that the second time? And you go again. And I think it's the same with, whatever you do. If it's, if you're playing football and you lose a football match, you don't think, well, I'm never going to play football again. You go again the following week. And I think that's true of all sorts. So if you, I don't know, you failed your maths GCSE, does that mean you never have no, of course it doesn't. You just try again.
Yeah. Karen, we've all sort of worked for people that have been fantastic managers and fantastic role models, but we've also had probably people that haven't got the best of us. And as individuals, how do we sort of possibly take a bit of ownership about our own growth and development and any advice? I mean, you're a coaching professional, you're a career professional, so any advice you would give to somebody in terms of managing those relationships with your line manager and your other colleagues to get the best for your own personal growth?
Yeah, I mean that's a difficult one, isn't it? Really, because I think it comes down to sort of the individual. So, and I always think you're not necessarily going to like everybody. Not everybody gets along, and that's okay. But it's still around maintaining professional, kind and courteous behaviour. So, and actually sometimes the people that you think sometimes, oh, I'm not going to get along with them, or you have a falling out over something. Actually, you then, because you start with some honesty, you sometimes then build a stronger relationship with that person, because you're not necessarily not afraid of upsetting them, but you've got a different relationship with them, so you don't have to. It's not like if you upset your best friend or something, and it's you are more cautious of that sort of thing. But actually, in work, it's about honesty, and we always say we should be open to feedback, and if you make a mistake and someone highlights that to you, you learn from it and you change it. Right. But I think again, you can learn from maybe managers that you might have seen or leaders in different areas, and you think, actually, I don't ever want to be like that. That isn't, and I think it's a little bit around your own kind of authentic leadership and how you treat people around you, your teams, your colleagues.
Kind of, how would people describe you as a sort of a leader, as somebody who you are in a very responsible position. You've got a lot of on your shoulders. You've got your own vision and your targets, and also you've got to implement the bigger picture as well. You're part of that team. So how would you say is sort of your leadership style, and how is that adapted?
I would hope that people would say I am a doer. So if I make a commitment to doing something, then 99% of the time I would say that gets done. And I think that's really important, that if you make a commitment to somebody in your team or to your boss or whoever, that you do it. And if you can't do it, that you're honest and upfront about that. So I think hopefully they would say I was proactive. I would hope that people see me as somebody who kind of leads the team from within. So it's hard to say, isn't it? I hope that I'm approachable. My team, certainly I'm with my team quite a lot. So I hope that they would say that I was approachable. I listen if if they tell me something, or if I get some feedback on something, I listen. That's not necessarily to say that you always, do exactly everything that's been asked, but you actually listen and you consider it. So considered, I guess, in my approach to things. I'm learning the ways of the railway, but I'm not a railway expert. I'm not somebody who's been, brought up in the railway for 25, 30 years. So I don't know a lot of things in it. So I'm not afraid to ask and get that guidance from, people who are technically experts or people who've been around a lot longer. So I'm never afraid to kind of ask. And, it sometimes causes a couple of chuckles if I ask, what are, daft questions or stuff. But again, it's one of those, my area of expertise is not rail per se. It's people. My passion is people and development. So I guess I'm not afraid to ask if I don't know the answer to something. In
terms of sort of leadership styles, and you've done your coaching qualification as well. I mean, has that changed your approach, or is that just embedded the fact that this is the best way to?
No,
yourself?
I think it has changed, and certainly while I was kind of actively learning, I think I had the tendency before to kind of leap in 2 feet first, fix everything, sort the problems out, and then kind of rescue a situation, and then off I go again, thinking, oh yeah, that's all fine now. But actually what that what that then doesn't do is kind of empower your teams to find their own answer to things. So you can jump in and you think, you do go in and you try and help, but actually that then just creates, I guess, sometimes some reliance. So next time there's a problem, you jump back in and you fix it and you give all the advice and the guidance. But actually, when I did my coaching, it was very much around, well, how do you get other people, whether that's, people more senior than you, your colleagues or your team members, how do you get them to kind of think for themselves and come up with their own answers to things and fix their own problems? And it was really helpful. So I've applied it in work, but equally apply it in my home life as well. So, when you've got kids, they're constantly asking you, Mum, can you help? And you're like, well, actually, what can you do about that situation? How can you fix that for yourself? So kind of equipping them to solve their own problems as well. So it certainly did help me, and it made me kind of evaluate how I challenge things, how I think about things. Sometimes it is more tempting. You think, I can just get it sorted. It'll be dead quick. I'll just go and I'll do it myself. But actually, you then end up just doing it yourself every time thereafter because you haven't empowered people or your kids or whoever it is to do it themselves. So it definitely did help me becoming a coach.
Okay. And do you feel, in terms of, obviously, that approach over the longer term, it does deliver results, even though for the shorter term, as you said, they may be, better to just go out and execute it or whatever, but over the longer term, it is part of something.
I think it does. But I think, again, and as you kind of go and as your role evolves and as it grows, I think there are still times where you haven't got the time or the capacity for that. And if it's maybe a crisis situation or something urgent, you do still need to adapt your leadership style and say, actually, this is the way that we're going to do it and here's why. But then there are other times where if it isn't maybe so time critical, that you can adopt a different style. And equally, there are times when sometimes coaching isn't the right way, and maybe it's more of a training or a different style of supporting people. But I think it's around having the conscious thought around that, rather than just relying on the same way of leading.
Caren, you touched on mentors and mentorship as well. Obviously, it's different to coaching. Mm-hmm. So how is that something that you're embracing yourself? Do you mentor others? Or do you have sort of a relationship where you're a mentee as well, or does that apply to yourself?
Yeah, it does. So I've had a mentor in the business for sort of 18 months or so now. And it's been really helpful for me working with him and the support that he's given me with my career development and kind of next steps for me. And it's very different from having a line manager because the relationships are different. So a mentor relationship, you're equals and you're... Whereas obviously with your line manager, it is different. And that's not to say that my line manager doesn't mentor me, but it's a different type of relationship. Yeah. So I've really benefited from having a mentor. I've mentored people myself in the past, and I'm happy to. Equally, I'm happy to kind of coach people if that's what they require. I think it's valuable all around because like we've talked about earlier, I think it's around that sort of continuous improvement and understanding that, times change, you as a person change, things that go on in your home life can affect how you perform in work and vice versa. And actually having a mentor can really help you kind of keep that in check as well and have that sort of check-in with yourself of actually, how have I handled things? Could I have done things differently? What's gone really well, and actually sometimes reflecting on that as well, some good practice.
A lot of it is in the reflective questions and then really thinking about those questions yourself and self-analysis to a certain level, because it is about just creating that environment where you can take a little bit of time out and think about your approach. So, fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about, if we can, just in terms of the future to a certain level, in terms of there's a lot of change taking place within the railways. Some doom and gloom, some negative conversations as well. Some people talking about all this transformation taking on. It's going to be all privatized, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and so forth. So from your perspective, obviously, we're sort of from a perspective of future gazing. Nobody can say with certainty, but what's your thinking and your approach in terms of this sector that you're operating in?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the sector, it's kind of up in the air at the minute, isn't it? I think eventually, the government have obviously said they want everything kind of back in-house. So that transfer will happen. Is there any point worrying about that at the moment? Probably not. There's nothing we can do to sort of change that or, I guess, influence it. So I think for that, it's very much we're going to have to just see how that goes in the next 3 to 5 years. For me, it won't really affect how I do my job. I think I'll still continue to do as I've always done, to go into work every day, to do the best I can, to support people where needed, keep open-minded about things, and I think be receptive to the change. People can, it's natural to worry about things changing.
I think trains are not going to go away. I mean, we need transportation.
Exactly,
we need to get from one place to another. The ownership of it and how it works and so forth. It's probably not the main thing for the consumers out there, for the people out there. The jobs are still there.
Yeah, they just want a train on time to take them where they want to go without any delays, and that's what we're always working to do.
It's more of a political thing rather than an operational thing, or something that's going to affect the aspect of it. But people do sometimes worry, and they start thinking, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" and so forth. But just from my perspective, again, I just think
sometimes what they say, if you worry today, it takes away tomorrow's peace, and that's true, isn't it? It's there's certain things you can control and you can worry about and influence, but can we? You don't know if the government are in for 4.5 years maximum left. Yeah, it could all change again in 4.5 years. You don't know, do you? If if the Reds go out and the Blues come back in, it might change again, or we might have 20 years of a Labour government, and you just don't know at this point in time. So I think you can only work with what you currently know.
But at the moment, we know the fact that there's definitely a demographic which says that there's more and more opportunities coming in. There's a definitely need for talent. There's a shortage of key skills. There's an investment that needs to be made.
Yeah, and that's just what we'll keep working on. So we'll keep working on reaching out to the communities. We'll keep working on our recruitment pipeline. We'll keep working on upskilling and training and running the trains.
Absolutely, and I think that's the main thing, really, trying to put things in context. Because if you anything that comes out of context, I mean, I was speaking to a couple of colleagues, and I mentioned, I'm meeting, yourself and a train operator, and he says, "Oh my God, I don't know whether it's just people have this knee jerk thing of doom and gloom, and when you look at it really in context, it's actually it's not the case. That the work carries on and the need is still there, and the opportunities are there. And actually, to be frank with you, it's there's so much diversity of opportunities there, so many avenues and so many avenues for growth, and I think from a outside in perspective, it's a market that possibly people haven't really looked at, and really need to embrace and look at the opportunities within.
Absolutely,
this
I mean,
market.
there's loads of opportunities within the rail industry. Loads of different jobs, loads of different, in terms of geographic location, but equally things, like the benefits that the pension and obviously salaries and all those kinds of things. It's it's a great place to work, and there are lots of real advantages. Even the perks of the travel that we all get, and you hear a lot around kind of petrol prices, so people commuting into work and all that kind of stuff. But it's if you work for the train company, then you obviously use the train to get about the place. So there's lots of really good reasons and lots of additional benefits for working for the rail industry.
Fairly secure environment as well. As it's not going away, and the shift is towards using public transport.
Absolutely,
absolutely so. And I think at the country we need a good public transport, whether that's buses or whether that's the train sector, to actually get around. That's I think everybody believes in that, and everybody wants that, and everybody wants to encourage that. And it was great to hear that when we were talking offline, you said you've got the train here as well, so it's fantastic the fact that we're doing that, and I need to do more of that myself. But absolutely, it's it's something that
Yeah,
I think
it's
we
really
know.
important
Yeah.
too. And I think I went, a colleague and I went on a work trip to France a couple of months back. And lots of the people that so it was an educational event, a skills event.
Yeah.
So lots of people there, you know, the automatic reaction is, oh, let's just ring a cab or jump in a taxi. But we didn't. We were like, well, we'll get the train.
Yeah.
And actually the train service in France is brilliant. You know, it's at the end of the road, takes you right where you need to be.
Yeah.
It's obviously really cheap, really convenient. And I think it's a little bit of, I guess, a re-education piece for some people where it's, you know, it's easy just to jump in a taxi, isn't it?
It's actually a delightful experience, actually.
And actually you see a lot more because you can, you know, look out the windows.
You can think, you can talk to people, you can look at people, what they're doing and so forth. And it's actually quite a enlightening experience. So.
Definitely. And it was good for us to see, you know, trains in a different country and how well they work and, you know, all those other good things.
Yeah, thank you, Caren. Really appreciate our conversation, and I'm looking forward to what the rebranding looks like for cross country trains, and I really appreciate you sharing your insights and your experiences with us today. So, any sort of final words of wisdom and encouragement for our listeners, Caren?
So, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here today, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you too. I guess final word of wisdom would just be keep learning, keep open-minded, and grab all the opportunities with both hands. Thank you, Caren. Really appreciate that. Thank you again for your support with our Multicultural Apprenticeship Alliance and all the work that we're doing together. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Canny Conversation Podcast Series 5 by Safraz Ali.